Welcome to this protest. This gathering is in defiance. Is a group near defiance. We are here today because of a symbol, the Shamrock. Now, the Shamrock is our most widely and internationally recognised symbol. It is the green that reminds us of our fields, our rain-soaked hills. It is the tree leaves that, as legend has it, St. Patrick once used to explain the mystery of the Holy Trinity. For generations, it has been a simple, humble sign of Irishness, sent across the world as a message of peace and connection from our island. But in recent years, that symbol has been stolen. It has been dipped in corporate glass, wrapped in a shroud to sanitize our culture and bury our history, and presented not as a gift of peace and brotherhood, but as a gesture of fealty, of bending the knee. Every year our Taoiseach flies across the Atlantic, not to represent the Irish people, but to perform a humiliation ritual. A ritual where he hands over a piece of our national identity to a man at an administration and a state that stands for everything we are not. They want you to think this is a harmless tradition, a bit of diplomacy, the special relationship. But we are here today to say no, not in our name, not with our symbols. We are here to say no. We are here to reclaim the Shamrock, to take it back from the boardrooms and negotiations and root it back to the soil of community, justice and sovereignty. So for the next while we're going to take a walk through the Ireland we're fighting against and the Ireland we're fighting for. Each Shamrock they hand over is a betrayal. We must reclaim them, if not physically then in spirit. Selling our soul, sovereignty and the corporate state. Let's start with the big one, the thing that ties all of this together, the selling of our sovereignty. They hand over a Shamrock and in return what do they get? They get photo ops and a pat in the head. What do we get? We get told that our hands are tied, that we can't control our own rents because of the market, that we can't build public housing because it would spook investors, that we can't tax the tech giants properly because they might leave, that we can't regulate the vulture funds buying up our family homes because of EU rules. This is neoliberalism. This is the ideology that says countries should be run not for the benefit of their people, but for the smooth operation of the machinery of global capital. And our government is the most enthusiastic pupil of the school of thought. Globalisation, they claimed, was supposed to bring the world together. Instead, it brought us vulture funds. It brought us corporations who pay little tax here while their business models erode our democracy and our main streets. It's brought us trade deals negotiated in secret that give corporations the power to sue our government if we try to protect our environment or our workers. They have no ambition to solve the housing crisis because for them the housing crisis is working perfectly. It's an asset grab. It's a way for global capital to make guaranteed returns on the backs of young Irish people who will never own a home. They have no ambition to fix our health service because the two-tier system is a gold mine for private insurance and private hospitals. When our Taoiseach hands over that bowl of Shamrocks, he's not just engaging in diplomacy to the US President. He's pledging allegiance to an economic system that is grinding us down, selling the shirts off our backs and the ground from under our feet. He is putting a green quality assurance sticker on a machine that is extracting the life out of our people, our country, and every people and country like us. So what do we do instead? We want Shamrocks for indigenous worker-owned industry. We want an economy rooted here, owned by the people who work in it, not by shareholders in Delaware. We want Shamrocks for our sovereignty, the power to say no to trade deals like Mercosur and CETA that would flood our markets with environmentally destructive, hormone-fed beef that is disastrous to the health of our people while undercutting our own farmers. The power to say that our people, our homes and our land are more important than the rights of an investor. We want an Ireland that has the ambition to solve its own problems for its own people and feck the gold-plated billionaire begrudgers. Human price, home, health and humanity. And let's talk about what that lack of ambition looks like on the ground. Let's talk about home. No Shamrocks for ruining our housing and healthcare for foreign investors. This isn't an abstract. This is the family packing up because their landlord is selling to a vulture fund, or that their landlord is a vulture fund that saw their home as a line on a spreadsheet. This is the young person who can't move back into their own community because the rent is more than their wage. This is the person sleeping in a tent in a cold snap, a direct result of government policy that treats housing as a commodity and not a right. It is the same story in healthcare. We have world-class medical professionals, but have trolleys and corridors. Why? Because we've underfunded and under-resourced the public system for decades, funneling money instead into tax breaks for the rich and dividends for investors. We've created a health service where your access to care depends on your ability to pay, not on your need. And look at what it's doing to rural Ireland. Our small towns are dying unnatural deaths. They're being killed. Post offices closed. Bus routes cancelled. Garda stations shuttered. And in their place, we get data centres. Massive energy hubs clamped down in the middle of farmland, serving the needs of a multinational, while the local community can't get a decent broadband connection. The cost of living isn't just things getting expensive. It's the slow, grinding realisation that the society you grew up in, the one that promised if you worked you'd have a secure life, was a lie. The feeling that the country is being run for someone else, somewhere else. So we reclaim the Shamrock for housing and healthcare for the people, not for profit, for the people. We reclaim it for affordable housing, not affordable as defined by a developer spreadsheet, but affordable for a nurse, a teacher, a musician. We reclaim it for vibrant rural communities, where the wealth generated by the land and the people stays in the community, where we invest in local services, transport, and local futures. And now this brings us to the moral line, the genocide, fascism and human rights. This next part is the hardest to say, but it must be said, because the Shamrock handed over in Washington isn't just a symbol of economic betrayal, it is a symbol of moral bankruptcy. No Shamrocks for genocide. While our Taoiseach smiles for the cameras, the US administration he's posing up to is providing the bombs, the funding and the diplomatic cover for genocide in Gaza and for the bombing of Iran. We have watched for months as a population has been starved, bombed and displaced. We have seen children pulled from the rubble. We have seen hospitals destroyed and our government's response has been weak and muted. A few carefully worded statements while the Shamrocks are ready for being handed over. When you hand over that symbol of Irishness, you are by extension normalising that. You are saying that a trade deal, a diplomatic chat, is more important than standing against the mass slaughter of civilians. An Ireland that remembers the Great Famine and remembers colonisation, that sings songs of displacement and grief, should be the first to stand up and say stop. Not the last to whisper, and not just foreign policy, it's who they're handing it to. No Shamrocks for fascists and ICE. This US administration is targeting migrants, stoking fear and running detention centres that violate every basic human right. They are attacking trans kids, banning books and giving a platform to white supremacists. Is that who we want to be associated? Is that the special relationship? And let's bring it home. No Shamrocks for misogyny, abuse, rape and paedophilia. We have our own struggles here. We know the pain of the church and state colluding to hide abuse. We know the trauma of the Magdalene laundries and the mother and baby homes. We should have a deep institutional memory of what happens when power is unchecked and when the powerful protect their own. So how can we, of all people, stand by while the most powerful man in the world is found liable for sexual abuse, brags about sexual assault, and is now filling the administration with people who want to roll back women's rights 100 years? We cannot, we will not. We stand against that here at home too. We stand against the scapegoating of minorities for political gain. We stand against the rise of far-right rhetoric on our own streets. We know where that road leads and we will not go back. Instead, we reclaim the Shamrock for diversity, love and equality, for a society that welcomes the stranger because we know what it's like to be the stranger, for a society that protects women and that protects children, that protects everyone. this point now, I want to put on a poem that the great, I want to put on a poem, I want to put on a poem from what you call it, from the late great Luke Kelly. It was For What Died the Sons of Roisin. And this was, even though it's often used by people who oppose migrants, it was never meant for that. What it was meant for was the complete, total and utter sellout of our country to foreign investors. No.
Hit at the door.
For what flowed Ireland's blood in rivers that began when Brian chased? For what died the sons of Roisin? Was it fame? For what died the sons of Roisin? Was it greed? For what died the sons of Roisin? Was it greed that drove Wolf Tone to a martyr's death in a cell? German, French, or Dutch inscribed the epitaph of Emmet. When we've sold enough of Ireland to be but strangers in it, for what died the sons of Roisin? Allegiance today to those brave men who fought and died that Roisin lived again with pride. Her sons at home to work and sing, her roots dance like Ronnie's way. Betrayer to the highest bidder. To whom what suffer our patriots today? For what suffer our patriots today? They have a language common, so they say. How to write no trespass must grieve their heart and soul. But we did this time. Now we're faced with many. For what suffer our patriots today?
And the important thing about that poem, regardless how others have tried to claim it, regardless of how others have tried to claim it against people immigrating to Ireland, is because of the fact that was originally written at the time when Ireland joined the European Union and was in talks to join the European Union. And what that was speaking about was against the foreign investment that neoliberalism would bring us. We had gotten rid of the British out of Ireland at the time. Well, long before that time, but we had gotten rid of the British and we were now voluntarily hitching our star economically to much greater, much larger imperialist powers. And that today now, what we're doing with handing the bowl of Shamrocks over to Trump is, and with what we've done for the past, we'll say 70 years or so, is we have sold what people had fought and died for. We sold, no sorry, I've a bit of dust got into my eye now and it's making my eye water, and what's worst about that now is it's making my mascara go into my eye. But the worst part of that is that the amount of people that have died and sacrificed in this country for us to have control of our own destiny, for us to have control over our own resources, for us to have control over our own futures and to have democracy. The amount of people that died for that, and we have over the past several decades sold that out from under our people as a state that we have. And it has gone to the stage now whereby this situation with handing over the bowl of Shamrocks is handing over a begging bowl. He may as well be crawling up to him on his knees as to be handing him that bowl of Shamrocks. Especially after last year, when what happened, it was supposed to be this big relation. There was debate about this last year as well. And he was supposed to be he was supposed to be there well before St. Patrick's Day, as he is again. And who did Trump actually have on St. Patrick's Day? Conor McGregor. Now, I don't know why Micheál Martin chooses to humiliate himself that much to be going back a second year after that, let alone the concerns that everyone else has with it. But now, just for a second now, I'm going to get back up the bit that I'd written. I need to take a small breather now at this point. Yeah.
How you doing, folks? You all?
Ah, very well.
Thank you.
Now, with regards to the living world, climate, energy and ecocide, let's talk about the only home we all share, the planet. No Shamrocks for fossil fuels, LNG and ecocide. While the Taoiseach is in the US, he's not just visiting the White House, he's likely meeting with energy companies. He's listening to their pitches for liquefied natural gas terminals in our ports. They want to turn Ireland into a frack gas hub for Europe, locking us into a fossil fuel future for decades to come, all while we're supposed to be in a climate emergency. This is ecocide. It is destruction of our natural environment for short-term corporate profit. It is ignoring our own climate council's advice. It's selling out our children's future for a photo op. And what's their excuse? They'll say we need the energy. But whose energy? We have one of the best wind and wave resources in the world. We could be a renewable powerhouse. We could be generating power for our communities, owned by our communities, and selling the expertise to the world. But instead, they want to build more data centres and burn imported gas to power them. It's insane. It is the same lack of ambition in transport. We spend billions on motorways while our rail network is a joke. As a matter of fact, most of the people who were supposed to be here today couldn't come because of lack of space on the train from Cork, serving Cork, Limerick and Tipperary. This is eco. And thanks very much for the support.
Thank you.
No. Where was I? I got kind of distracted there, but say we're thanking people passing. It's the same lack of ambition for transport. We spend billions on motorways when our rail network is a joke. Our bus services are underfunded, and cycling in our cities is a death wish. A modern European country should have a public transport system that works. It's about freedom. The freedom to get around with or without a car, the freedom to breathe clean air, the freedom to live in a town not carved up by traffic. So we reclaim the Shamrock for community and locally owned renewable energy. Power the people, literally. We reclaim it for public transport, pedestrian infrastructure and cycling. For streets that are for people, not just for cars. And even when we speak of cars, many people do need a car. And with what we're paying in road tax, there should be better repair, and there should be plenty and enough cycle lanes for people who want to cycle. We should also have plenty of public transport for what we pay in every other kind of tax. We reclaim the Shamrock for a future where we treat the earth not as a resource to be extracted, but as a home to be cherished. The Ireland we deserve, culture, joy and keepy uppies. So we've spent a lot of time talking about what we're against, and that's important. But a protest should also be a celebration of what we're for a vision for the future. Shamrocks for art, culture and decolonisation. Our culture is not a theme park for tourists. It is not a brand for a stout company. It's not a greenwashing tool for a corrupt government. Our culture is in our bones. It's in the Shannon singing and the stories 1,000 years old. It's in the Cúpla Focal of Gaeilge, for those who have it. I only have a little bit. Our native tongue that connects us to a different way of seeing the world, a pre-colonial way. It is in our music sessions, our storytelling, our poetry. Decolonisation isn't just about history books. It's about freeing our minds from the idea that success means being like London, New York or Boston. It's about valuing community over competition, cooperation over expansion. It's about building an Ireland that is confident in itself, that doesn't need to bow to any foreign power. That's why we have Shamrocks for vibrant communities, diversity, love and equality. An Ireland that is a mosaic of different cultures, different backgrounds, all adding to the richness of the whole. And the thing of it is as well, when we speak of this, and what is often forgotten when we speak about diversity and culture and decolonisation, is also the place of the travellers. There is no group of people in Ireland as kept down upon as the travelling community. There is no group of people in Ireland who are half legislated out of existence as much as the travelling community. And when we speak, it doesn't need to be just kind of hand waving. We often hear other groups speak of decolonisation. We often hear other groups speak of culture. We often hear other groups speak of diversity. But very seldom do they ever include our own indigenous people, the traveller community, who are part and parcel and equally entitled to a place within this country as what us, the settled community, are. And finally, because we can't be serious all the time, and because joy is an act of resistance, Shamrocks for keepy uppies. For the kid in the street in Dublin, for the family on the beach in Kerry, for anyone who ever kept a ball half off the ground for as long as they can, this is for simple, uncommodified joys. The ones that can't be bought or sold. The ones that remind us that we are human, that we are alive, and that we are in this together. The Ireland we want is one where there's time for keepy uppies, time for a chat, and time to live. So, in reclaiming the symbol, so when the Taoiseach stands in the White House in the coming days, and he holds up that bit of green, remember what it's been traded for. Remember the homes, remember the hospitals, remember the children in Gaza, remember the people in Palestine, remember the people in Iran, remember the gas terminals, remember the scapegoating, remember the knee being bent. But then look around you. Look at the flags that will be that'll be around the country in the coming weeks. Look at the people. This is the real Ireland, the Ireland that refuses. We are here to reclaim the Shamrock, not as a symbol of submission, but as a symbol of resistance. We take it back from the vulture funds, and we root it in the soil of community-owned land. We take it back from the fossil fuel giants, and we plant it in the foundation of a renewable, people-owned grid. We take it back from the war machines and we wear it as a badge of neutrality and peace. We take it back from the far right and we share it as a sign of welcome. The Shamrock is ours. It belongs to the workers, the carers, the artists, the dreamers, the fighters. It belongs to everyone who believes that this small island can be a beacon of justice, not a vassal of empire. So let them have their photo op. We have the streets, we have each other, and we have a vision of Ireland that is free. No Shamrocks for greed, Shamrocks for the people, Shamrocks for justice, Shamrocks for a free Ireland. Gurav Vila Mahagut. Now, that's for what I had written on this today. There was supposed to be other people coming up speaking, but of course, as I said, no one could get up with the situation with the trains and the match today, from the kind of Cork, County Limerick to Prairie side. So basically, what I want to say kind of badly trying to fill out a bit of the rest of the time, outside of who's here with me, is we can, look, the world is a very scary place now, between all of what's going on in the Middle East, the fact that we could be facing World War III very shortly, especially if China gets involved in what's going on, and they may have to, because of the fact that they only have 100 days of oil left, and and they have no way of getting more, which will grind all the rest of this whole neoliberal system to a halt, because it entirely relies upon international trade. And when that happens, what have we? We've basically nothing. We've no manufacture. Any jobs that we had in the line of manufacture up to the end of the boom have since left. We have some tech jobs, which great if we can keep up with what's going on geopolitically and what's going on with Trump trying to drag investment home. That's not entirely likely. So what are we left with? Now, with regards to the media and with regards to the government and with regards to everything else, they rely on trying to put different lobbies against each other. On the one hand, they are there and they're trying to get people who are for the environment up against farmers, when it was the government and the EU that mandated the intensification of Irish agriculture from the 60s up until the 2000s. They're trying to get the farmers against the environmentalists, when the environmentalists are trying to make sure that there's still a country to farm in the future. They're trying to put the people in Dublin against the people down the country. They're trying to put the people down the country against the people in Dublin. And all of this to what end? All of this so that there's complete inaction, but all of these issues are totally and utterly interlinked. They're all interlinked to our economic system. They're all interlinked to what is basically the system of neoliberal globalization. All of this is not a system that arose out of the ether. All of this is a system that was put in place over the decades since the post-war era. With regards to capitalism, we've that a lot longer, but with regards to its current iteration, this has all been the post-war reality. And since the end of the Cold War, it's gotten even worse because they're unopposed. Now, the thing of it is with any of this, we could either stand and fight for it at our feet or die at our knees, basically. This is the situation that we're left with. We can oppose things like Micheál Martin going over to Trump. We can oppose things like the undoing of our triple lock. We can oppose things like, the general erosion of our neutrality, and we can oppose things like the Americans in Shannon. Now, one thing that is a personal right to me from the region that I come from, I'm from County Limerick. And what the main gripe is people seem to think that when people protest against the Yanks in Shannon, that they're protesting the airport, and that what would the people of Shannon have without the airport. But what no one seems to realise back around that way is the fact that if the Yanks weren't in Shannon, that there'd be far more proper traffic going through that airport. Shannon was one of the most important airports in the country, and now there's more flights arriving in Fan 4 along the time. So what's happening is not for our economic development. It doesn't help us high up nor low down. If you look at any of the companies that many of the people here in Dublin work for, that's great and all. You might have a fairly good wage, but do you realise that workers often in America, in the upper levels of these tech companies, make 2 or 3 times what you make? Do you not realise the fact that if that space was taken up and invested in, and if it was an Irish, preferably a worker-owned company that was filling that role and who you were working for, that the money would be staying here? What we are doing is we are facilitating not only the extraction of what we have out of here, but we're also facilitating the extraction of money from all over the world, being laundered through our economy and sent back to places like America. we have nothing we have nothing to stand to benefit from the regime now. And much as people might disagree, and much as people might like to try and hold on to their multinational job, and that's fair enough, that's completely understandable, that's dried up. Because now you have places like Malaysia who are becoming the new powerhouses for foreign direct investment. Now you have places, now you have like Trump trying to drag back what left as foreign direct investment back home to the US. So the thing is now we have a very limited time. We can decide to do what we can with what we have while we have it, or we can sit here, twiddle our thumbs, continue to capitulate to the likes of Trump, leave ourselves in an unmerciful situation, and have nothing at the end of the day, except a complete loss of our honour, a complete loss of our self-determination, a complete loss of our sovereignty, and lose more than we ever stood to gain from any of it. And this is the position that we have left ourselves in. And no one has done it to us except for ourselves. Well, the Yanks have done it to us, let's be fair, but we didn't have to leave them. We didn't have to leave the Yanks take what we have and what we haven't. We didn't have to leave the Yanks basically destroy what we have. And it's gone to the stage now where they're interfering wholesale in our politics. Over 70% of Irish internet traffic, particularly on the issue of politics, is now bots, most of whom are originating in the US, spreading US propaganda. This is what the US did to their enemies. This is what the US did to the Warsaw Pact countries. And they're claiming us to be an ally. Back in the day, the Warsaw Pact countries only had to deal with Free Radio Europe. We had to deal with tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of bots pretending to be Irish people, trying to convince Irish people to go against their own interests, trying to convince Irish people to support the like of Trump. And this is the reality that we have. They also are continually warning our government off of, and then it came out that there was that there was US diplomatic interference in the fact that we wouldn't pass the Occupied Territories Bill. The Occupied Territories Bill should have been passed the moment that we, in its usual process like anything else that we'd be putting through. Instead, what happened? It was delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed, and then in the end, they held the 2024 general election 3 months early on 3 weeks' notice, just to avoid just to avoid having to pass the Occupied Territories Bill. Why? Because the US warned them not to. We don't have the opportunity. We are not allowed to even set our own foreign affairs. So then what are we left with? We're left with a flag. We're left with a flag and a few symbols. And they want to take those for their own use now. Because believe it or not, the likes of Trump haven't one chance in hell of getting elected without the Irish-American lobby. And what use do we make of the Irish-American lobby? Absolutely none whatsoever. You look at what the Israelis have with AIPAC and everything else. There's millions more of us in America than what there is of Israelis. And this is the situation. They're able to get whatever they want. They're able to even influence our political life through America. And we can't get anything for ourselves without having to bend the knee, without having to bend over backwards, without having to allow the wholesale robbery of our people and our country. I mean, it doesn't begin and end with Trump. Trump is currently, now he's the worst iteration we've had in a while. But Trump didn't rise out of the ether either. Trump is a creation of US policy for decades, for centuries even. Trump is a product of neoliberalism. Trump is a product of capitalism. Trump is a product of imperialism. All he is a mirror held up to the face of the system. And what we see we don't like. Well, that would want to make us realise what the system truly is. And we're not only opposing the handing over of a bowl of Shamrocks to Trump, we're opposing the whole system. The whole system that robs us blind and murders half the rest of the world. situation. This is the realities of the situation. We haven't one hope in hell of actually solving any of this, of actually having anything in the future, unless we are willing to actually take a stand on something. And the handiest thing to take a stand on now is the bowl of Shamrocks, small and all as it is. And the thing of it is it's very funny that the people who go on and they complain about the wasting of money in public service and people taking junkets around here, which, where and wherever, they're all very silent on this issue of us going over to hand over this bowl of Shamrocks to Trump. It's funny, there seems to be limitless money to militarise. There seems to be limitless money to go on these diplomatic missions to fascist tyrants. There seems to be limitless money for that kind of thing. But there seems to be nobody at all for actually anything that we need to do ourselves. Like, where are we? We're here in Dublin. It costs nearly more to rent a flat in Dublin now than what the average wage is in Dublin. It's over a year. It's over a year ago since the
Rubbish.
Well, you might think so, but you're old enough that it won't affect you. But we're here in Dublin. It costs nearly more to rent a flat in Dublin than what the average wage in Dublin is. You have fellas living 30 to a 3-bedroom house in places. Anyone ever take a look at daft.ie lately and you'll see things that are completely illegal, openly up for rent because people are so desperate, because there is no enforcement, and because it's basically become a country for landlords. Already, since the recent legislation that the government passed to allow landlords off the hook, they're expecting rents to rise in the next couple of months by up to €500 a month in some areas. And let alone Dublin, even in places like Cork. It's nearly 2 years ago since the average rent in Cork hit over the minimum wage in the country. So where are we now? Who can afford to live anywhere? On the one hand, you have the price of rents. On the other hand, you have the price of properties. So now, even if someone can get the credit to buy a property, what they're paying in their mortgage isn't much less than what they're paying in rent. If you have a couple who have children, in order to keep the show on the road, they're paying one person's wage in rent, and they're nearly paying the entirety of another person's wage in childcare, just to be able to keep going and keep surviving. And do people think that this will not create intergenerational poverty? Like we had intergenerational poverty in the time of the tenements. It was the same story back then, but for different reasons. In all of the urban areas in Ireland, there was tenements of people who had the least of all, who weren't able to afford to rear their children properly. What did we end up with? We ended up with the heroin crisis in the 80s. We ended up with, for example, in Limerick, with the gang crisis in Limerick. We crisis after crisis after crisis, decade after decade after decade. We got one good decade in the 90s and early 2000s. We sold what we had for that. It'll probably be another 70 years before we see another good decade like that, and at the rate things are going, even if we sold what we had, we're still not going to get another good decade like that. So now is the time to start looking at what our other alternatives are. What we can actually build in this country for ourselves without having to get down on our knees and beg the likes of Trump. Without having to get down on our knees and beg even the likes of the European Union. Because the European Union basically serves the same kind of interests. We do get some level of benefit out of them, but we don't need to be going over and constantly saying, oh yeah, we signed that, no bother. Every other country in Europe fights for its rights. Every other country in Europe says, no, I don't want that, I won't consent to that. What do? All we've had in the media now is that we should have been the knee more to Europe in the media. They were all complaining when the government, after being held over a barrel and bullied and pushed, wouldn't sign off at the Mercosur deal. And all the Irish media was going on about saying that, it looks bad with us getting the European presidency and we can't show leadership. Is capitulating, is getting down on your knees and kissing the boot of Ursula von der Leyen showing leadership. Is that what showing leadership is to the Irish media? Let alone now what's happening with Trump. Ursula von der Leyen is a ghoul, Trump is a fascist. And this is literally what we have. We may as well have no government as to what's going on here. When our government forgets the fact that they're supposed to be public servants, what have we done? Absolutely nothing. They will not fight for our rights. They won't put in place funds to pay for what we need to pay for. Like even going back to Apple's 13 billion. The place is full of people who are who are qualified in tech, we'll say, arenas. I'm not a tech person. I don't know a whole pile about it. But you have a whole heap of young lads who do great work, who prop up some of the most important multinational companies in the world here with their skill in tech. When we got Apple's 13 billion, would it have been too much to ask for the government to invest some of that into setting up an indigenous tech industry where those lads, most of whom are working on contracts or as freelancers and have absolutely no job security whatsoever, could have actually had something and could have built an indigenous industry that we wouldn't be constantly on our knees to everyone else, Joe, especially in this situation with the Shamrocks, the Americans. This is the situation that we now have. And if you look at, for example, the programme for government when they came back in. When the government came back in with their grand heist there at the end of 2024, if you look at the programme for government they put out since, everything is about eroding workers' rights, eroding wages. And they're putting it in clever language like finding better value for foreign direct investment, making sure that we are not costing them too much and all the rest of this. With the crackdown on the situation with the corporation tax, that can only come from one place, and it's out of your pocket is the only place that can come from. This has been the plan forever. None of this is a surprise to any of them. You think now we can read, we can look, we can inform ourselves on what is going on just by reading things or whatever else have you. Anything we know, they know 10 times more. Because they've access to more information than what we have. They've access to information months before we even get it. So if the likes of me can tell you what's happening, they know what's happening. Don't let them claim that they don't know what's happening. We are too inclined, and we tend to be very decent people and say, God help them, sure they're probably just an idiot. That has never been the case. They're very well able to play the idiot. They're very well able to make us think they're idiots. But if they were idiots, how can they be? With the level of education that most of them have, and having information from from thousands and thousands of educated people in every branch of the civil service, telling them what's going on, that they can then claim that they don't know what's going on and that they're sorry and that they made a mistake. They know what they're doing. And this is pure evidence of it. Like anyone at all with eyes to see and ears to hear can see what's going on in America. They can see what America is doing in the Middle East. They can see what's going on everywhere. And Micheál Martin is claiming that this is just a basic little bit of diplomacy. It's basically like calling over to a friend. And the final bit of this I'd like to say is, when you're talking about it, like it was calling over to a friend, St. Patrick's Day is our national holiday. We have not reunified, so we do not have an Independence Day like many countries do. So St. Patrick's Day is our national holiday. And what is the leader of our country going over to some other country for our national day? The leaders of other countries should be coming to us for that. That's like going over to someone else's house with your birthday cake for your birthday. Would you consider it anything other than farcical or a completely abusive friendship if you had to call over to your pal's house with the birthday cake for your birthday that they wouldn't call to you? It's in very, very simple terms now that. This is the situation where we are. We are a vassal. We're bowing down and we're giving fealty to the United States of America. And when people look at history, and it's often true that Irish people outline and things like that, back when Hitler died, Eamon de Valera passed on his condolences. Well, what's it going to be looked like now when we have spent 2 years passing Shamrocks to this century's great fascist? What's it going to look like when what's happening when ice all comes out? Because what was going on in other places, back in the early 20th century wasn't known until after the fact. We know things are bad enough there now, but what about the things we don't know? Where's Ireland's position going to be when it's known that with all of this going on, that we were going over, we were continuing to capitulate, we refused to stand up for any level of justice, and we threw our hat into the ring with them. And the push towards militarisation, the push towards eroding our neutrality, and the push towards dismantling our triple lock, it's not coming at a time just randomly. It's coming at a time when the Western Empire is dying, and when basically they want to use us for cannon fodder. It's a phrase that I often say, and it's a phrase that I say repeatedly. Paddy is only white when he's useful. And that's something you all need to stick with. Because we are only welcome to the club when we're useful for something. And they're welcoming us that much now at the moment. I'm very curious as to what the hell they want from us, because it can't be good. I'm just going to take a breath now. What time have we now?
16:52.
Yeah.
Well, you can tell when I get
No, sorry, I'm just going to take a breath a minute, because I've been talking non-stop for the past hour. But when you look at the likes of Trump, and when you look at the likes of the people that support him, what I find very interesting is that a whole heap of people go on like what he's doing now was unforeseeable. He told us exactly what he was going to do. It was well known what he was going to do, it was just people chose not to believe it. And this is a lot of what's going on now at the moment. They are flooding us with information and events. A, to normalise the situation that we have in the world, and B, to make sure that there's too many things going on at one time that we can't react to them all. Even down to things like the Epstein files, that was all put out in a big bulk, rapidly enough that no one could go through them all the time. And since they released a whole lot, they're starting to remove them off the DOJ website. This is a PSYOP tactic, and this is US behaviour to a T for the past however since the CIA and the FBI have ever existed in the first place. There is so much coming out now, there are so many moves going on now that it's nearly impossible to, we'll say, tackle and go for them all. It's nearly impossible to learn about them all. It's nearly impossible to even comprehend it all. So what's happening? People are shutting down cognitively. They're not paying attention to what's going on because there's just too much information there, they're getting overwhelmed. And that is completely natural, that is completely understandable. But even if you can't understand all of what's going on, even if you can't get a grip on everything, even if you can't keep up with the news, and even if you can't keep up with every action, what we need to do is consolidate actions into one. Because all of what's going on is interconnected to the system we have. It's interconnected to the politics that we have. You don't need to know the finer points of everything in order to oppose it. What people need to do is learn the little bit they can, inform themselves the bit they can, and try and come together and fight whatever way that they can. People are not jaded now from all of what's going on. Since about, I'd say 2016 or so, things have moved so rapidly and so viciously, geopolitically, economically, and every other which way, it is nearly impossible for people to get a grip on things. But what I'm asking people here today is to not get bogged down in that. To not get, we'll say, overwhelmed or hopeless about it. Because at the end of the day, at the end of the day, how will I put it? I'm trying to figure out how best to put this. At the end of the day, if you can keep standing, if you can keep figuring things out, if you can keep working away, that's a bigger win than being able to have control over the whole situation. We need to continue fighting, but we don't need to have control over everything. Every little bit of a win is a win. And if we can, through some small way, stop or even at least make it as comfortable as possible for Micheál Martin to go over and to give those Shamrocks to Donald Trump, we've achieved some little bit. We will at least have helped some little bit. So it's important to keep talking, it's important to keep attacking what's happening, and it's important to keep going in so much as we can. Now, just for lack of anything else to say a while, and I'm going to play a few songs through this, just that kind of encompass the Ireland that we were. The strong anti-imperialist, fighting for all rights type of Irish people that we have been, and in the hopes that we can rediscover that as who we are. Because at the moment now, the situation that we are in, we are an awful long way from where our ancestors were, both in the quality of fighting the people and in terms of our position as a nation. Our position as a nation now is probably the worst it's been since the 50s. It's just people don't realise it yet, and people don't notice it yet. And that is the reality of the situation.
I did a few times. I did a few times.
He played a reed, it seems so grand and gay. Stood on Dingle Beach and cast in wide foam. We found Atlantic bass, living on your western shore. Saw summer sunsets, asked for more. I stood by your Atlantic sea and sang a song for Ireland.
Let's just stand by the side of it a bit.
It's paper.
I know, but so people can see the banner.
Friends and trying to stay.
that banner a little bit. It's against the Shamrocks for Trump.
The government building.
That's the government building. Our cause is sitting there. That's the building for the government. And our leader wants to go over to America and give a go to Shamrocks to Donald Trump, and we're opposing the Donald Trump is a fascist. Now, I'm going to put on now A Nation Once Again, and the reason why I'm putting on A Nation Once Again is because of the fact that Ireland is currently a province. It's currently a province of the EU, it's a province of finance capital, and it's a province of the American Empire. And that we may find resistance, and that we may once again be a nation, a proper proud nation that can stand up to tyrants. It can stand up to the likes of Trump, and it can stand up to what's going on in the world and all the violence, war and everything else.
E quindi così ogni tipo può vincere.
And the next thing I'm going to put on with relevance to this protest is the fields of Athenry. Partially because I come from County Limerick, partially because the rugby is on, and partially because this is the reality that we lived with. And people still found resistance in the reality of the times of the famine and all of what else we've suffered. And it would be a sad thing to think that we can't find some level of resistance towards what's going on in the world now. Now, if we could find resistance in the time when that song was written about, we could find resistance now. If we didn't bend the knee that time, we don't have to bend the knee now. And I would also like to play, just to fill out the rest of the time, a few other songs, but one of them is The Sun is Burning. And the reason why I want to play The Sun is Burning is because it's about the reality of nuclear war. And it's about what could be facing us if this situation gets out of hand. It's what could be facing the world. And with the amount of nuclear armament that has happened in the world since that song was written, if one drops, they'll all drop, and we'll all be facing the same reality.
The sun is burning in the sky. Strands of cloud go slowly drifting by. In the park, the dreamy bees are droning in the flowers among the trees. And the sun is in the sky. Now the sun is in the west. Little kids lay down to take their rest. And the couples in the park are holding hands and waiting for the dark. And the sun is in the west. Now the sun is sinking low. Children playing, oh, it's time to go. High above us spot appears, a little blossom blooms and then draws near. And the sun is sinking low. Now the sun has come to earth, shrouded in a mushroom cloud of death. Death comes in a blinding flash of hellish heat that leaves a smear of ash. And the sun has come to earth. Now the sun has disappeared. All is darkness, anger, pain, and fear. Twisted, sightless wrecks of men go groping on their knees and cry in pain. And the sun has disappeared.
Now, given the context, the next song that I'm going to play is Joe Hill. And why I'm playing this is Joe Hill was he was a great American trade unionist who tried as best he could to oppose all of what went on and has gone on in America. And he was killed for it, as has happened most people who try to fix what's going on, what went wrong with America and what's going on in the world now, often on behalf of America.
I dreamed I saw Joe Hill last night, alive as you and me. Says I, but Joe, you
going to finish up with 2 songs now, just because of the fact that the guard said they would like us to be moved on by about 5:30 because the rugby crowd are going to be coming down the street this way. So we'll be finishing up a half an hour early to accommodate the movement of the rugby crowd. So basically I'm going to put on, just to fill out the rest of the time, I'm going to be putting on Banks of Marble by Pete Seeger, and it is what you call it. It's a very good song in explaining how all of the issues that all of us face in the current time and in the past time are all interrelated, and they're all interrelated to the one thing, predominantly finance capital. It'll be a minute now to load. I hear everything.
I've traveled around this country, from shore to shining shore. Every made me wonder the things I heard and saw. I saw the weary farmer, a plowing sod and loam. I heard the auction hammer, just a knocking down his home. But the banks are made of marble, with a guard at every door, and the vaults are stuffed with silver that the farmer sweated for. I've seen the seamen standing idly by the shore, and I heard their bosses saying, got no work for you no more. But the banks are made of marble, with a guard at every door, and the vaults are stuffed with silver that the seamen sweated for. I've seen the weary miner scrubbing coal dust from his back, and I've heard his children crying, got no coal to heat the shack. But the banks are made of marble, with a guard at every door, and the vaults are stuffed with silver that the miners sweated for. I've seen my brothers working throughout this mighty land. I prayed we'd get together and together make a stand. Then we might own those banks of marble, with a guard at every door, and we would share those vaults of silver that we have sweated for.
And as you can see by that song, the more things change, the more they stay the same. And if that's how the US establishment treats their own people, we can't expect better. Now, the next one that I'm going to play is Free the People and In God Save Ireland.
Laws were made for people. The law can never score the rights of a man to be free. of something in time. He says goodbye and remember, we shall overcome. We the people, let them have their say. We the people, let them see the light of day. Comforting her children softly crying in the night, she tries very hard to explain. You know your daddy never did a thing that wasn't right, so soon he's bound to be home again. He is a good man, and we shall overcome. We the people, let them have their say. We the people, let them see the light of day. What does it profit him, the right to be born, if he suffers the loss of liberty? The laws were made for people, and the law can never scorn the right of a man to be free. We are the people, and we shall overcome. We are the people, and we shall overcome. We the people, let them have their say. We the people, let them see the light of day. We the people, let them have their say. We the people, let them see the light of day. We the people.
And regarding that, that's the reality that's faced by all the people who are in ICE detention and all of the people who are detained for no reason by the Israeli government, and by most of the people who are detained in the US full stop. Because the place that has the most people per capita imprisoned, it might surprise you, it's in China or North Korea, it's actually the United States of America. And that was before they even started with this ICE crap. So this is basically, you've people held, there's people, with regards to the whole situation with ICE, you've people held who were awaiting decisions with regarding their immigration status. You've people held who were in possession of valid work permits, who were in possession, in some cases, of green cards. There are some people who have been deported who are actually US citizens. And this is the situation you have. It's a complete flouting of the law. Well, not that I 100% agree with the concept of law, because I believe that the law and justice are not...
What's the name of this road?
Huh?
What's the name of this road?
This road, Kildare Street. Very funny to be asking protesters for directions. But anyway, the law and justice aren't always joined at the hip, particularly in the United States of America today. But even at that, with regards to where the law does lie, most of what's going on with regards to the United States of America, with regards to ICE, is completely illegal by their own laws.
We're at the last minute.
Huh?
We're in the last minute.
So anyway, with that said, I'm going to finish up this with our national anthem, as is culture tradition. Everything finishes with the national anthem. And also, because we need to finish up now, because the rugby crowds will be moving soon, and the guards are there and asked us if we'd try and finish up for 5:30. So that's basically what I'm going to do.
We're quit. Let them up.
No, keep going. Trying to find the other.
Good night, boys and girls. Kindly stand for our national anthem around the vein. Good night, safe home. Thank you.
we've no one here cheering today. But anyway, we'll be back again tomorrow with a bigger crowd because most of the crowd couldn't come up, being that most of the crowd was coming from Cork. So you'll have a Cork invasion of Dublin tomorrow. We're just the first shock troops from County Limerick. But goodbye and God bless.
You're the advanced party.
Yeah, we're the advanced party.
Right, we'll see you tomorrow, so.
Yeah.
Right.
Will I turn off?
Yeah. You can turn it off now, yeah.
Fair play.
Yeah.